Hello, Becky here. Welcome to my channel. I am here to do another tag video. So I'm just gonna hop right into this. This tag I'm gonna do I found on Erica's channel from The Broken Spine, and the original was created by Lindsey at Lindsey's Little Library. So I will link those things down in the description below. So this is the dilemmas of a book nerd tag. Dilemma number 1, book storage. How do you store and organize your books? So my books, there's no real storage like alphabetically or by author or anything like that. I have this bookshelf here, as you can see, and this has like some classics. Up at the top is Narnia books, and then we have like 1984, Brave New World, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, The Borrowers. This is the Hitchhiker's Guide series, which is my husband's. Then I have like a few graphic novels over here that I've read. This is all Bibles. And then here in this corner was books from like Fort McMurray / fire related stuff, evacuation stuff. And then just some of my favorite like children's books here. And then I have another bookshelf over here that's mainly unread books. And then I have a bookshelf in my bedroom, which is more read books. And I have them more categorized like, these are my books about marriage. These are my books about parenting. These are my books about God. Nonfiction books, stuff like that. And I also have a bookshelf I also have 2 bookshelves downstairs, which I'm planning on hoping to sell and get bookshelves I really want. So mainly storage is just bookshelves. I kind of just go from like the taller, thicker books down to like the smaller, thinner books, and just, you know, nonfiction, fiction, stuff like that. Not alphabetical or rainbow or anything like that. Maybe one day when I have more books, I will have enough books with spines with different colors to be able to do the rainbow bookshelf. Question number 2, or dilemma number 2, tracking. How do you keep track of what you have read and what books you own? In the past, I never really did. I started writing like 12 years ago. I started just writing like in a journal, the book I was reading, the number of pages, the day I started it, and the day I finished it. And then I started using Goodreads, and now I'm using the Storygraph. I don't add in every single book I own, although maybe one day I'll start adding those in a little bit more. I have like 2 read piles, but I don't necessarily own all those books on my to be read or like on my radar kind of bookshelves on those platforms. I haven't been using Goodreads for the past 2 years, just been focusing on the Storygraph, but I think I'm gonna go back to doing both of them. Dilemma number 3, borrow. Do you lend your books out? Yes, sometimes I do. I know that is a big like controversy kind of thing, because non-bookish people or people who read more casually tend to not be as kind to your books, or just the fact that it's not their book, so they don't think about it. And I know people don't get their books back, they get lost, they get ripped, they get stuff dropped on them, like spilt on them, whatever. Someone's dog might chew on it, or their kids might scribble in it, or whatever. And so I know lending things out is kind of controversial, but I will do it occasionally. And sometimes like I've had friends borrow books and it takes them like a little bit of time to get it back, but if I ask them for it, they will give it back sooner than later. Sometimes I just forget that I lent it out, and then they're like, hey, I have a book of yours, and I'll get it back like way later. But typically it's already books I've already read, so I'm not waiting to read it, not waiting to get it back to read it, so that's good. But I totally understand not wanting to lend out your books. Dilemma number 4, buying. How do you buy or acquire your books? So I do use my library quite often. I also buy my books from Chapters here in Canada. It's Chapters, Indigo, or Kohl's. And there's a few other like little offshoots, like Indigo Spirit, I think is like in airports and stuff like that. That's the big box store here. If you're from America, that would be like Barnes & Noble, basically. There are also some independent bookstores that I will order from, but we don't have any specifically in the town I live in. So I will order from Audrey's in Edmonton or Iron Dog Books in Vancouver. And there is a different book list that I ordered from back in 2020 in Toronto. I also just ordered some books from thriftbooks.com, and I will also thrift books from places like Value Village, Goodwill, or whatever. I'm not against buying used books. Dilemma number 5, comments. How do you respond to the how do you read so much comment or similar comments? I don't know, I just make time for it. And in the past, since 2019, I have started listening to audiobooks a lot, and that has definitely like doubled the number of books I can read in a year. And I usually like pick, okay, I'm physically reading this book, or I'm listening to it as an audiobook. I don't usually do both, but like I'm doing a reread of the Outlander series this year, and having the audiobooks, they're like 38 plus hour long audiobooks, so it is a lot to sit down and listen to, but it's also a lot to sit down and read. So I'm kind of going back and forth between audio and physically reading those, and being able to like go back and if I want to make a note or whatever, because I kind of know important things that are going to happen. So when those come up in the book, I go, oh yeah, and I like tag that in my book. For comments, it's just like, I don't know, I just find the time to read, and I read often. Dilemma number 6, next book. How do you pick your next read? There's a few different ways I do it. I'm a mood reader. I don't have a set TBR. I just kind of go to the bookshelf, look around, and think this looks interesting. It's been on my bookshelf for a while. With becoming a part of BookTube lately, it has been more like what other people are talking about will influence what I'm reading, of course. And like if I hear about a book that sounds really, really, really good and my library happens to have it, I'll like pick that up right away kind of thing. Or like there's been some books that I've wanted to listen to the audiobook for, like the Love Hypothesis, that I just like put on hold, and it's like, it'll be like, there's a 12-week wait to listen to this audiobook. And then when it comes up, I'm like, I guess I'm listening to this now. Sometimes I put it off longer, but yeah, I just kind of look at my bookshelves and go, what do I want to read next? With things like the Buzzwordathon, where there's a word for every month or like a theme for every month, that helps me pick like, I'm going to read this book in this month. Or sometimes I'll ask like my husband or my kids like, hey, help me pick a book. Here's like 3 books I'm interested in, kind of thing. Dilemma number 7, travel. How do you pick what books you bring on vacation with you? So of course there's always books to bring on vacation. I do have a Kobo, which is an e-reader, and I don't use it nearly enough, although I should be saving all my ebooks for when I travel, but I don't. Of course I travel with big physical books. So there's a few things like the book I'm currently reading, if there's a buzzword I need to get to, just whatever I'm interested in reading next is kind of what I'm picking up. Or if it's maybe a longer book like the Outlander book, I will bring that along with me as well, because then I might have some time to pick that up and enjoy that in the travels. Kind of the same way I choose what book I'm going to read next. It's just kind of random, like whatever I want to get to that month, I'll pick them to bring on vacation with me. Usually there's a nonfiction and a fiction book that I will want to bring, plus whatever I'm already currently reading, or that I buy while I'm there. Dilemma number 8, annotate. Do you write or highlight or mark up your books in any way? Yes, I've just started doing this more and more, especially this year, including the dreaded dog earring. Oh my gosh, I have a book right here. But I was doing that too, I think a little bit at the end. No, maybe not. Anyways, long book, I guess. I used to highlight and underline in more of my Christian and nonfiction books, but I've started doing it more in my fiction, like novels as well. It definitely helps you like interact with the text a little bit more and engage with the story and remember those stories more when you're like actively highlighting and annotating in them. Dilemma number 9, new or backlist? Which do you prefer, new releases or backlist books? A mix. I have over 150 books on my shelves that I have not yet read. And I told my husband, like, if I bought no new books and I took nothing out from my library, the only like audio or ebooks I got were books I already physically have on my shelves, it would take me over a year to read all the books I have on my shelf. Obviously not rereading anything. I just pick up books that sound interesting to me, honestly. So I have a lot of backlist titles, and there are new books that I get excited about, but I don't always read them right away. There are some new releases I will read like pretty much right when I get it, and there's other new releases that I want to get it, and maybe I've ordered it because Indigo had a promotion for a while. If you pre-ordered any anticipated releases on their list, you got extra bonus points, and those bonus points go to, you know, to me getting money, like $20 or $50, or one time I saved up all my points and got $100. Took a long time, but so sometimes I'll get like anticipated new releases for that, but I'm not necessarily looking to read it right away. But something like when I found out that Suzanne Collins was doing The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I had been wanting to reread The Hunger Games for a while, that's what I did. I started rereading The Hunger Games, and then when The Ballad came out, I pre-ordered that. It came late, and then I read it after right after I got it. So it really is just a mix of whatever I'm in the mood for. And again, I have nothing obviously against backlist titles at all. And I find like with new releases that you're really excited about, sometimes you kind of get caught up in reading all the new releases and your backlist gets further and further back. So trying to read more of what's just already on my shelves. Like for the buzzword, I'm trying to find books on my shelves that have that word in it already, not going to my library or looking up lists online. Like this month, it is the word all. So I'm not going online and being like, books with all in the title. I was looking on my shelves and I happened to find one. It's a newer book that I bought, but I did find one. If I don't have one, then I will look like at the library or whatever, because I want to participate at least one book a month with that thing, that buzzword. So I will go to the library and look for that. But if I have it on my shelf, that is my goal, is to read the books on my shelves. Dilemma number 10, sequels. Do you read books as they are released or wait for an entire series to be published before reading one book? I don't read a ton of series, so sometimes I will find series. Like a couple years ago, I found the Scythe trilogy, Arc of a Scythe. So those 3 books were already out, so I was able to kind of binge them. It wasn't like one after another, but we got to read them pretty close together, like within a year kind of thing, because me and my husband were both reading them, so it takes us a little bit longer. But sometimes a new book will come out and you find out it's going to be part of a duology or a trilogy or whatever, a series. So sometimes it'll sound interesting and I'll read it, that first book, and then wait for the next books to come out. Depending how long it takes, or when the mood strikes to read that next book, I might have to reread the first book. So that is kind of frustrating, but it just kind of depends on how excited I am for the first book. And again, some of the series I read, they're already out. I prefer that, to have all the books. But again, like at the beginning of 2021, I read Legendborn. And I wasn't even aware that it was going to be a sequel that I think is just supposed to come out this month or next month or something like that. So I'm like debating, like, do I pick up the sequel? Am I that invested in it kind of thing? So it's nice to have when the books are already out to read it. It really is a mix of both, of reading as they are released and waiting for the entire series. Thank you for joining me for the book dilemmas, the book nerd dilemmas of a book nerd tag. Let me know if you've done this tag before, or if you want to do it, tag me and let me know that you've done it. Let me watch your video and answer the question down below. Your book storage, how do you store and organize your books? And leave a little bookish emoji so I know that you got to the end of the video. And I'll see you next time. Bye.